Hello, folks. It's good to be back again with books at bedtime. Um, Yesterday we were doing, like, I'll read every time I get a few minutes here and there because I've always enjoyed reading, reading aloud. I used to be a school teacher, so I would read aloud to my kids a good 20 minutes to half an hour every day. Uh, you know, I actually love reading myself. My house is covered in books. Not saying I get to read them all, but I read parts of most of them. I first developed the love of reading um, when I was in uh, high school, actually, and it wasn't really through anything my teachers did or anything like that. In fact, I was a poor student in high school. I had a really tough time making the transition from junior high to high school, and also I was playing hockey quite seriously then, and spent a lot of my time there. And I generally didn't have a very good time academically in high school. But one of the things I enjoyed was going to the library, Nelson McIntyre Collegiate in Winnipeg. I don't know if I'd get sent there for detentions because I didn't have my homework done or whatever, but I ended up spending a lot of time there, and I ended up finding some books that I really enjoyed. Now, of course, usually these books weren't, the ones that were presently studying on the English curriculum or history curriculum or anything. They were just, a lot of them were biographies, just books I really enjoyed. But anyway, with that being said, I go to the library almost daily, and I'm always reserving books, checking them out. The people at Henderson Library, they know me by name. They know me the minute I walk in the door because I'm there practically every day. Okay, with that being said, let's get on to Walter Mitty today. Okay, now as you recall, or if you tuned on into yesterday's episode, um, Walter lives in a fantasy life. Walter Mitty, yes, lives in a fantasy life, and I'm sure he prefers it much to the reality of his own life. He's easily distracted, and the mundane things of life, like shopping and going to the doctors, that sort of thing, are not of much interest to him. What is of interest to him is dreaming about being somebody great, somebody powerful, and somebody important. Okay, where we left off yesterday, he drove around the streets aimlessly for a time, and then he drove past the hospital on his way to the parking lot. "It's the millionaire banker, Wellington McMillan," said the pretty nurse. "Yes," said Walter Mitty, removing his gloves slowly. "Who has the case?" "Dr. Renshaw and Dr. Benbow. But there are two specialists here, Dr. Remington from New York and Mr. Pritchard Mitford from London. He flew over." A door opened down a long, cool corridor, and Dr. Renshaw came out. He looked distraught and haggard. "Hello, Mitty," he said. "We're having a devil's own time with McMillan, the millionaire banker and close friend of Roosevelt. Obstreosis of the ductal tract, tertiary. Wish you'd look at him." "Glad to," said Mitty. In the operating room they were whispered introductions. Dr. Remington, Dr. Mitty. Mr. Pritchard Mitford, Dr. Mitty. "I've read your book on streptothrombosis," said Pritchard Mitford, shaking hands. "A brilliant performance, sir." "Thank you," said Walter Mitty. "Didn't know you were in the States, Mitty," grumbled Remington. "Coles to Newcastle, bringing Mitford and me up for a tertiary." "You are very kind," said Mitty. A huge complicated machine, connected to the operating table, with many tubes and wires, began at this moment to go pocketa, pocketa, pocketa. "The new anesthetizer is giving way," shouted an intern. "There's no one in the East who knows how to fix it." "Quiet, man," said Mitty in a low, cool voice. He sprang to the machine, which was now going pocketa, pocketa, queep, pocketa, queep. He began fingering delicately a row of glistening dials. "Give me a fountain pen," he snapped. Someone handed him a fountain pen. He pulled a faulty piston. He pulled a faulty piston out of the machine and inserted the pen in its place. "That will hold for 10 minutes," he said. "Let's get on with the operation." A nurse hurried over and whispered to Renshaw, and Mitty saw the man turn pale. "Choropsis has set in," said Renshaw nervously. "If you would take over, Mitty?" Mitty looked at him and at the craven figure of Benbow, who drank, and at the grave, uncertain faces of the two great specialists. "If you wish," he said. They slipped a white gown on him. He adjusted a mask and drew on thin gloves. Nurses handing him his shining, "Back it up, Mac. Look out for that Buick." Walter Mitty jammed on the brakes. "Wrong lane, Mac," said the parking lot attendant, looking at Mitty closely. "Oh, gee, yeah," muttered Mitty. He began cautiously to back out of the lane marked "Exit Only." "Leave her sit here," said the attendant. "I'll put her away." Mitty got out of the car. "Hey, better leave the key." "Oh," said Mitty, handing the man the ignition key. The attendant vaulted in the car, backed it up with insolent skill, and put it where it belonged. "They're so damn cocky," thought Walter Mitty, walking along Main Street. "They think they know everything." Once he tried to take his chains off outside New Milford, and he'd got them wound around the axles. The man had to come out in a wrecking car and unwind them, a young, grinning garage man. Since then, Mrs. Mitty always made him drive to a garage to have the chains taken off. The next time, he thought, "I'll wear my right arm in a sling. They won't grin at me then. I'll have my right arm in a sling and they'll see I couldn't possibly take the chains off myself." He kicked at the slush on the sidewalk. "Overshoes," he said to himself. Then he began looking for a shoe store. When he came out into the street again with the overshoes and the box under his arm, Walter Mitty began to wonder what the other thing was his wife had told him to get. She had told him twice before they set out from the house from Waterbury. In a way, he hated these weekly trips to town. He was always getting something wrong. Kleenex, he thought, squibs, razor blades. Nah, toothpaste, toothbrush, bicarbonate, initiative, and rough. He gave it up. But she would remember it. "What's the what's-its name?" she would ask. "Don't tell me you forgot the what's-its name." A newsboy went by shouting something about the Waterbury trial. Okay, I think I'm going to leave the actual reading of the text there for today. The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And just a little bit of commentary. I guess you figured out, like, Walter Mitty is sort of an everyman. He's an ordinary guy who wishes he was something better, someone more powerful, richer, famous, highly skilled. But in his real life, he is not. And probably because he would rather be someone else, he enjoys living his fantasy life. He's also a man who has difficulties with what are considered the mundane, routine things of life, especially fixing things. Now, of course, I can identify totally with Walter Mitty because I'm just like that. And, I'm also terrible at fixing things. I love to live in a fantasy realm a lot of the time because, like Walter Mitty, it is much better, isn't it? And I do tend to get distracted and, forget things. But I have a rich fantasy life, like Walter Mitty. So I'm thoroughly enjoying this, and I hope you are too. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who can, identify with poor Walter here, and the difficulties he has just navigating his real life. Okay, we'll see you again tomorrow, and have a really good afternoon. This is Ken David Stewart signing out.